how am I just making this comparison in my head right now? This movie is Speed, but with trains. Unstoppable! Released in 2010 and is directed by Tony Scott, who's directed such films as Top Gun, Enemy of the State, Crimson Tide, True Romance, and Man on Fire. The film stars Denzel Washington, Chris Pine, Rosario, Dawson, and Kevin Dunn. Which actually a funny story about Kevin Dunn. I actually saw him in a grocery store once. I didn't say hello though because he was down the beer cooler aisle, and you just don't disturb someone when they're trying to pick out their booze. Denzel plays Frank Barnes, who is a veteran railroad engineer, and today he has rookie conductor Will Coulson, played by Chris Pine, on his team. The first half of this movie, all we see these two characters really doing is busting each other's chops. Coulson is the young hotshot that might forget the smallest tasks on the train, and Barnes is the know-it-all train driver who's basically the Yoda of the railroad engineers. He feels the trains around him. And their schedule goes through a bit of a roadblock because train 777 is now traveling without a conductor because Dewey is a dumbass. It's picking up speed and it's heading to a head-on collision with Frank Barnes' train. And if Barnes and Coulson don't stop it, then 777 will hit the Devil's Curve, which is a sharp turn in the middle of Stanton, Pennsylvania. It will derail and cause the deaths of millions of people. And you talk about fast-paced and constant motion, wow! This movie has it. Once Dewey leaves the cockpit of a powered-up train, this movie feels like it's moving at 100 miles an hour. Almost to the point of motion sickness. If you remember back to my Master and Commander review, you remember me talking about the potential motion sickness that you can get because the camera is rotating back and forth like you're on the ocean. Well, in this movie, the camera is constantly sweeping. Constantly. I can't remember if the camera stays still at all. It is in constant motion, which I know what the director was going for with that choice. He wants that kinetic energy felt in this movie, and if the camera is constantly moving, then the audience definitely feels that. It's a great stylized choice, but do you have to do it in every scene? Even when nothing is happening and the characters are standing stationary on the ground, they're not moving. The camera is sweeping and sweeping and sweeping. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer would always talk with this like yelling whisper to convey dramatic effect and intensity. And you're just like, dude, just talk normally. Same thing here. Dude, not everything needs to be moving. Please plant the camera every once in a while, or I'm going to hurl. Now, this movie's tagline says that it's inspired by true events. And yeah, they're not lying. The idea for the story actually comes from a real-life event with train CSX Quadruple Fours, I believe it's what it's called. It was out of control. I believe this happened back in 2001 in the state of Ohio. Now, I did some research on this event for this review, and reading up on it, it just kind of seemed like a minor event. How the train was stopped is inspiration for what Denzel and Chris Pine's character do in this movie. But in the real-life event, no one was killed, and it was basically traveling down a straight line. Plus, its top speed that it was going at was about 50 miles an hour. In a straight line of a train going at 50 miles an hour, yeah, it's a kind of boring premise. And just like Hollywood does with all real-life events, let's spice it up a little bit. Instead of 50, we're going 70 miles an hour, and they ain't traveling down a straight line, they're going to the Devil's Curve. It adds dramatic effect, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If I'm gonna pay $10 to the movie theater, I better be entertained, and a train moving at 50 miles an hour in a straight line sounds pretty boring to me. But I just hate seeing the tagline, inspired by true events. Every piece of art is inspired by something, whether directly or indirectly. So adding the tagline that, oh, this was inspired by true events, is absolutely redundant to me. Denzel Washington is great. I mean, really, is there any performance that he is not great in? You can say that some of his movies might not be the best, but you can always say that Denzel is great in them. And I said it before, this guy could be called the Yoda of train conductors. He's told to get off the track to avoid the train, but he knows somehow that the train is not gonna fit. Call it his gut, And I just wish I had instincts like that. And his chemistry with Chris Pine in this movie is stellar. When they're trying to catch up with the train, that's a very serious situation. But instead of having stern looks and constant reassurance that this is a serious event, these two end up cracking jokes and laughing. And it's not humor like, oh, we're trying to make this into a comedy. You still feel the stakes, you still feel the drama, but when you're in serious situations like that, sometimes it's best just to tell a quick story to ease the tension. And if you don't ease the tension for the characters and for the audience, you can feel exhausted in 10 minutes. And Chris Pine gives a great performance as well. We see a little bit of his backstory. He's having problems with his wife. He can't see his kids because of a restraining order. So it gives us a reason to care about this brash, young, heartthrob rookie. Gosh, if anything happened to him in this movie, we'd be really sad. Plus, I think the marketing department really exploited his eyes on the promotional material. I mean, seriously, look at those eyes. Can eyes really be that blue? What was I saying? So we have great chemistry between our two lead actors, and we also have a lot of great stunt work and practical effects in this movie. Almost everything that you see with the trains and the locomotives actually happened. The locomotives that you see are real-life locomotives. Again, I feel like I say this in every review, but the tangibility of that raises the stakes for the audience, and I feel like we get more invested when it's real. This movie does play with your emotions a lot. Again, we're constantly moving. I felt like I was checking my pulse every couple minutes because I felt my heart rate going. And if my heart rate wasn't moving fast because the camera is constantly moving, it was moving fast out of anger because of Kevin Dunn's CEO character. He's constantly worried about money, so he wants us to focus on that first, and then we'll focus on the people of Stanton later. Ugh. Just hate him. Then there's dumbass Dewey. Seriously, the conflict of this movie starts when Dewey gets out of the cockpit of a moving train to flip a switch, and because he's so big, he moves pretty slowly, and so the train takes off without him. Way to go, Dewey! Dumbass! So in the end, Unstoppable is an intense thrill ride that never slows down once the crisis starts. The chemistry between Denzel and Chris in this movie is what makes the movie so relatable, and you definitely feel the kinetic energy from the direction and the camera work. But at times, the constant sweeping motion of the camera can be overkill. We get it. The movie is fast. Not everything has to be sweeping. But it is a fun popcorn flick, and I would definitely recommend it to you if you haven't seen it already. So I'm gonna give Unstoppable 4 out of 5 Blu-rays.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Alright everyone, now comes my favorite part in my videos where I randomly select which movie I'm watching next. Let's take a look. The Master! I've only seen this one time. I know Philip Seymour Hoffman is in it, and I remember him giving a stellar performance. Joaquin Phoenix, and then Amy Adams. I can't remember if this is like the true story of the beginnings of Scientology. I don't know, I have no idea what that religion entails, but I feel like it has something to do with that. Whatever. I'll rewatch it, and I'll let you know here in a couple of days. So everyone, have you seen Unstoppable? What did you think about it? Or, if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, please comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And when you're done commenting, please like and subscribe to my channel so you know the next time I'm posting my next movie review. And please, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones. Let's get the Caleb Watches Movies Network out there. So everyone, I will see you next time with my review of The Master. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.